You've probably heard that in the future all the Chagim will be batal at some point in time. The holidays will stop being holidays at some point in the future. There's different versions what's actually said, but the Medrash talks about specifically that the Chagim, all the Chagim will be batal except for Purim and Yom Kippur and Shabbos. Shabbos will also go on as well, but the rest of the Chagim will be batal. The question arises, and some people do Hanuka, but they don't mention Hanuka itself, but that is the thing. Ones that will keep going for like a period of time will be Purim and Yom Kippur. The question is why those specifically will keep going on, and why those will be cancelled out. Especially if you consider the fact that every mitzvah and every chag is a derisive mitzvah. Every chag is based upon a Torah commandments, and the commandments themselves, by definition, are eternal. They can't be stopped at any point in time. Even if there's no application anymore, but the concept has to go on forever. If the Torah is eternal, all the mitzvahs are eternal as well. So the question becomes, if that's the case, so how can the chag be batal? So the rabbis explain, specifically the Kabbalistic rabbis, the more, Kabbalah explains specifically that what it means, and it says batal, not that the concept itself is batal, but you have to understand and appreciate what a chag actually is. What does a holiday represent? What's a Jewish holiday? Why must there be a specific day to celebrate Pesach, or Sukkot, or Shmini Atzeres, or Hanukkah for that matter? And there's even the rabbinic holidays, the rabbinically oriented chagim, where they come from, and why would Purim, if it's only rabbinical, why did it last longer than Pesach and Shavuos, all these holidays? So the explanation basically is that, for example, you're living in a house, and there's air outside the house, and there's air inside the house. If you want the air from the outside the house to come in the house, you have to open a window, or you have to open a door, because it's not in the house right now. You have to actually open something to allow the air to come in. So likewise, every chag, every holiday, by definition, is a specific light, specific or that comes from Shemayim, from the Kodesh Baruch Hu, that's not in everyday life. It's not in everyday life. And it's a special energy that Hashem puts into the world specifically to allow us to be able to accomplish what we have to accomplish, to come close to Kodesh Baruch Hu, and specifically to achieve personal shleimus, personal perfection. So Pesach, for example, is Man Cherusenu. What does Man Cherusenu mean? It means that at that time of year, which I know by most women it's usually the opposite, you feel it's not Man Cherusenu, it's usually Man Shibutzenu, basically cooking and cleaning and the whole thing, but technically speaking, or theoretically speaking, it's Man Cherusenu, meaning it's a time of freedom. Sukkot is Man Simchasenu, a time of joy. And Shavuos is Man Torasenu. What does it mean? Some hold the Shavuos is Man Gvinusenu, time of all of our cheesecakes and all that. But ultimately speaking, it's Man Torasenu. It's a time that the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives the Torah, which means that there's a certain energy. Whatever the reason why the events of history take place, and they do, is not random. It's because certain spiritual doors open up, certain lights come into the world, and because those lights are available, they affect us. The same way, for example, if you go to a shul, right, when a person's at a shul, go to a shir, you respond a certain way. You have a certain attitude towards life that comes out in shul that's different if you're going shopping in a mall someplace, or you're stopping to buy some food for Shabbos. It's a different atmosphere, different ruach, different energy that affects you differently. It will allow you to achieve or to bring out certain aspects of yourself that you can't, or it's more difficult to do other times of the year. The Rambam points out, for example, by Rosh Hashanah, by the Seres Tshuva, that it's the ideal time to do tshuva. But the truth is you can do tshuva all year round. You can also do vidui all year round. So why are we so makpi? Why do we make a big deal about Elul Zman, and then later on about Rosh Hashanah Kippur, that that's the time to do tshuva? Because we see Anila Dodi Li means that Kodesh Baruch Hu is changing the energy of Ma'aseh Bereshis. He's putting a specific energy in the world that makes it easier for you to connect to what has to be rectified, to feel that you can do tshuva, and to be inspired to do tshuva. It's a koyach Hashem puts in the world that's not there all year round. You can do tshuva all year round. You can have charata, you can have regret, and you can do vidui, but it's not going to be the same thing. There's a special energy that comes in during the Seres Tshuva specifically to inspire and to elevate and to allow a person to be able to achieve a level of recognition that tshuva is necessary and to go through the process and the steps and actually achieve it. And Yom Kippur, you certainly feel it. On Yom Kippur, it's the kedusha of the day itself, the energy of the day itself. You feel inspired to daven. You feel a koyach to do tshuva. You feel a sort of level of acknowledgement that vidu is necessary. So you do it, as opposed to the rest of the year. Shabbos has a certain koyach as well. So all the chagim are really just doors. They're openings to another period of history, to another time, another level of light. So when the door opens up on Tet Vav Nisan, Pesach begins, so that means that the light is being allowed to come from another part of history, the future, into our time, and we're able to experience it. So that's why, for example, it says in Techisa Mesim, Pesach will no longer be a holiday, Shavuos will no longer be a holiday, Rosh Hashanah will no longer be a holiday. Why? Because the light of the Chagim that we're used to is a light that belongs to Techisa Mesim. If the light of Techisa Mesim is that light, and in the period of time called the resurrection of the dead, which begins at some time before 6,000 and ends with 6,000, and every day that light is allowed to shine. It's the natural light of that time. You no longer require a separate chag. According to the Leshem, which is the Leshem's grandfather, he explains that every Yom Rishon in Techisa Mesim will be Pesach. Every Sunday. But don't panic. We want it to clear the Motzi Shabbos. No Yisahara, there's no Chumetz. The Koyach of Pesach will just send it on every Yom Sheni, which corresponds to Gevur, the Sfei Gevur, which is Din, will be Rosh Hashanah. It means the Koyach, the light of Rosh Hashanah, will come out every single week on every Monday, and the third day, I believe, is Shavuos, and then comes the fourth is Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh becomes a Chag into itself. The fifth day is Sukkot, and the sixth day is Shmini Atzeres, and Shabbos is always Shabbos.
Really? Every week?
Every week. Because every day, every week, that light will shine on its own without having to do anything at all. You won't require a window to access the light, because the light will be readily available. When it says the Chagim will be batel, what it means is that in each period of time we go through history, the light will become universal, become accessible on a daily basis without having to do anything to bring it about. So therefore you will require a specific holiday. So the concept is eternal, is always going to be there, but you won't require a specific act to bring it about. That's what batel means in this case. So the Techisa Mesim, you'll still have Shabbos, because Shabbos is a light that belongs to the period of time between 6,000 and 7,000. We talk about Yom Shekulo Shabbos, right? If you inherit the day that's completely Shabbos, that's talking about the period of time which the Ramchal refers to as Olam Nefashos, the soul world, which comes from 6,000 until 7,000. So after history comes to an end as we know it, and it's already the first level of Olam Haba at that time. The souls get repaired in preparation for the world to come, for the eternal reward, the world to come. So that's Yom Shekulo Shabbos. So Shabbos stops being an independent day between 6,000 and 7,000, because every day is Shabbos at that point in time, but there'll still be Purim, and there'll still be Yom Kippur. Of the two Chagim, which one is the last to go? It's remarkable anyhow that Purim is still around. Right? Purim is of all the Chagim, of all the holidays we celebrate, aside from the fact it's only rabbinical in nature, but it's, you think of all the Chagim, Hanukkah versus Purim as well, of all the holidays which seems to be the least holy of all the Chagim, you would think would be Purim. Yet Purim is still around. Even Techisa Mesim, even after Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres stop being Chagim, even after Shabbos stops being a unique day, there'll still be Purim, whatever that means. There'll still be Yom Kippur. Which one goes last? Which is the last to go? Well, you probably think Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. It should be the last to go. So it turns out that Purim is the last to go. Of all the Chagim, the light of Purim comes from deep in Olam Haba. Which means, however you're celebrating Purim, that's what's supposed to happen. And you're supposed to, Purim opens a door that allows access to a light that comes from way in the future. Even Yom Kippur is not the same level of light. It will go into the 8th millennium, the 7th millennium, because that corresponds to the sphere of Bina, which is the source of Yom Kippur. It's a little bit deep, but that light will shine every single day. The last to go is Purim. Purim comes from a very, very high level, which means you have to understand Purim. But that's another share close to the spring instead. This is more of a Hanukkah at this point in time. What about Hanukkah? Where does Hanukkah fit into all this? When does Hanukkah stop being a holiday? So it turns out that Hanukkah stops being a holiday in Yemos HaMashiach. Once Yemos Mashiach begins, that's the next period of history to begin. There's Hashem, Mashiach should come in our lifetime, our time. Once the period of Mashiach begins, there'll still be Pesach, there'll still be Shavuot, there'll still be Sukkot, there'll still be all the Chagim, there'll be Yom Kippur, Purim, Shabbat, all that, but Hanukkah will cease to be a holiday. Why? Because the light of Hanukkah is the light of Yemos Mashiach. And in Yemos Mashiach, that light will shine every single day. And because it shines every single day, you'll no longer require Hanukkah as a separate holiday. You understand? Makes that clear? Right? See how that works, basically? The concept, we move on. It's very important.
Will we be changed in a way?
Will we be changed? Yeah, because it says at the beginning of Yemot HaMashiach, Kosh Baruch Hu will shach Yetzer Hara, all evil will disappear from the world. Anybody who's still surviving at that time will be in a whole different madriga. We'll still look the same, we'll still eat the same food, we'll still be quite physical, but the attitude towards life of the Kosh Baruch Hu, B'yamahu, Yeshem Chadosh Moachad. At that time, Kosh Baruch Hu will be one in the minds of all people. There'll be no Yitzhak, there'll be no evil, no jealousy, none of the negative emotions, none of the laziness, all will disappear. Doing mitzvahs will become natural for everybody at that point, which is why there's no longer any schar for mitzvahs performed in Yemos Mashiach, because in Yemos Mashiach they become automatic. What's the point of a mitzvah? A commandment, you require a commandment when a person doesn't want to do something. Right? You have to be told to eat, or to eat enjoyable food. You have to be told to take your vitamins, perhaps, your whatever, the food you don't want to eat, the vegetables you don't like, but because it goes against what you want to do. So therefore, a mitzvah is for the sake of allowing a person to overcome the resistance to do the right thing. But once you're doing the right thing automatically as a function of everyday life, you no longer require a tzivur. So in Yemot HaMashiach, all the mitzvahs will still be mitzvahs, except they won't be mitzvahs as they are today. Because we'll automatically see the world the way Kadosh Baruch Hu sees the world, the way Hashem sees the world, and we'll naturally want to do that which the Torah commands us to do at this stage, which is not so natural for us to do, because of Yetzer Hara. So there's a tremendous transformation. But the light of Hanukkah itself is every single day, is that's the light that shines specifically during Yemos Mashiach, which means by definition, Hanukkah will no longer have to exist. So it means when the Chashmonayim, when they did what they did, the miracle they performed, and the Shemin Zayis burning for 7 extra days, just buying the Pach Shem in the first place, whatever was going on, they were accessing the light of Yemos Mashiach. That's the door that opened up, that allowed the miracle to take place. That the few could overcome the many, and the weak could overcome the strong, and those who were tahor could overcome those who were tamei in the end. Because when you have this light of Yemos Mashiach backing you up, it's what's energizing you, that's what you're accessing. It's a whole different level of koyach. It's a whole different level of ability. A person can succeed at a level that they can't the rest of the time. I mean, everyday life, we call this miracles, nisim neflois, right? But the difference is going to be is right now, nisim neflois take place kind of randomly for us. We don't really have much control over it. We hope for miracles sometimes. We put ourselves in positions we might need miracles, or we find ourselves in positions where we require miracles, but will the miracle actually happen? That's a different story. But Yemos Mashiach, that's the natural way of doing things. A similar example of this idea is really, there's a famous story in the Gemara, Chinim Badosa. Chinim Badosa, he was a miracle worker. He was a Hanukkah person. He was a person for whom the light of Hanukkah shone all the time. People who access the aura of the light of creation that Hanukkah provides, they can actually access it, they can do miracles at will. So the Tanaim were able to do things like that. So the very famous story in the Gemara, which I'm sure most people have heard, where by mistake, Rabbi Chinim Badosa, his daughter lit vinegar for Shabbos candles. She actually lit it. She poured the vinegar into the little thing. I guess in those days, you didn't necessarily use glass, so you probably had like little clay containers, so you couldn't tell what was inside. And she poured out, but she wasn't going to see if vinegar could burn. She just put it in, and she lit it, and it was burning. And it kept burning. And she thought, this is very bizarre, it's got to be a nace. So she came to her father and said, Abba, I lit the vinegar and it's burning like Shemin Zayis. Is that a problem over here? Not that she could put it out, because Shabbos came in, but her father could put it out for her. And she was more worried that maybe she was using skuyot. Because if you use miracles in this world that you don't merit, then you use up merits in what comes off your cash. But miracles don't come for free unless you deserve them. If you deserve them, it's a different story. But what does it mean to deserve them? It's another another very important point. But so she comes to her father, and her father comes back and gives a very interesting answer. He says to her, he says, well, it depends. If you believe that there's a distinction between Shemen Zayis and Chometz and vinegar, that Shemen Zayis burns and Chometz can't burn, you believe that? You believe that the reason why you cannot normally light vinegar is because there's a difference between them physically and spiritually, the whole thing? Then it's for you, it's a nace. That's called a miracle. Because what's a nace? A nace is Lamon Teva. It's supernatural. So if you believe the thing called Teva, that this is the way the world has to be, and the vinegar is now burning, that's called a miracle. But if you understand the only reason why Shemen Zayis burns in the first place, why wood or paper or anything is combustible burns in the first place, is because the Kodesh Baruch Hu says it should. Otherwise, there's no real property that makes it different from one to the other. Then there's no difference between Shemen Zayis and Chometz for you, and it's not called a miracle. And don't worry about it. It's Teva, because anyhow, the word for Teva, what's the word for nature is Teva. Where does the word come from? From the word matbeya. A matbeya is a coin. What is a coin? It's minted. You take metal, just boom, 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 and you make the exact same thing over and over and over again. So now what is Teva? Teva is miracles that take place over and over and over again. But it's miracles nonetheless. There's no difference. The best example is childbirth. There can't be a bigger miracle than that. My brother, who is a doctor, and in his beginning had to deliver babies, and his first interning was one of the most exciting things in his life. So I asked him, what was it like? He said it was mind-boggling. It was like you couldn't believe this miracle was taking place. So later on, 6-7 months later, I asked him again. I said, "Are you still delivering babies?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "What's it like?" He says, "You just wish they won't call you." It's like, you hope that when the beeper goes off, it's not under the birth all of a sudden. Like it loses, because the most natural thing in the world, so no longer a mystery. If Kriyas Yamsuf took place once a week, right? Every week the sea would split. Now they go down to the Yamsuf there, just for whatever reason, naturally speaking, the whole thing is split like that. It became a camping site. That's all. People would come and sit there, bring their Winnebagos or whatever, and set up a camping site, and make a barbecue, and watch the sea split, take a bunch of pictures, and go back to work on Monday again. That's the impact it would have, because miracle, nature, Teva, is simply miracle happening over. It's consistent miracle. That's what we say. Every single Nefesh Chaim explains the bracha we say in Berachos Kriyishma, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Machadish Ma'asav Bereishis, the Tuvah, the whole yom, every day is Machadish Ma'asav Bereishis, Ad Kedei Kach, to the extent that every single second Hashem is remaking Ma'asav Bereishis. The miracle of Ma'asav Bereishis is taking place every single second. In other words, really, if it was the way it should be, every single second creation would be starting anew each time. So this moment would not be taking place, because it'd all be back at the beginning, another moment, another moment. Kodesh Baruch Hu is another miracle, as a chesed, because of the progression in life and history. So Kodesh Baruch Hu makes it that the next moment picks up where the last one left off. So there's some kind of continuity where you feel as if you exist and life goes on. But it doesn't make a difference. The bottom line is every single aspect of life and everyday life is a miracle. And the koyach of Hanukkah was it allowed a person to access that energy within creation to such an extent that they were able to use it to accomplish the impossible. We stand back and look at history and say, that was a miracle. When Klal Yisrael crossed the Yamsuf, we stand back and say, wow, that was a miracle, because we imagine our minds standing by the sea. We can't possibly fathom how could anybody will the sea to actually split. So I know there were people here from last night from the same ship, but the point is worth making a second time. Was the split? But you can't answer this question because you already heard the answer, right? Was Kriyas Yamsuf a nace? Was Kriyas Yamsuf a nace? The splitting of the sea was of course it was. What else could it possibly be? When was the last time you saw a sea split? It doesn't happen very often. It happened once in history, actually twice in history. Once for Yeshua, also across the Yarden. Right? It wasn't the same size, same size of the nace, but it was the same idea. No difference. It doesn't make a difference how much water splits. The fact that the water split in the first place, that's all that counts over here. But Kriyas Yamsuf was not a nace. Because that's what happens in Ma'aseh Bereshis when people rise to a very high level of bitachon, with the expression, Ein davar omed bifnei bitachon. Nothing stands in the way of bitachon. Some say Ratzon, but bitachon. The Medrash says, it says, Apatech Hashem chesed yisavenu. Somebody who trusts in the Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is bitachon, kindness will surround him. The Medrash says in that passage, afilu rasha, even an evil person, but Apatech Hashem, who trusts in Hashem, chesed yisavenu. Chesed will surround him. The Ramban says, what does it mean? Right? The pasuk also says, it says Aseh Tov, it says B'atav Hashem the Aseh Tov. Right? Trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu and do good. He asked the question, why it should be the other way around? The way we think it should, the logic that we have over here is that we Aseh Tov, you do the right thing first, and B'atav Hashem. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu will then, for your bitachon, give you a miracle. In fact, that the Chavos Levavos explains that the midas of bitachon really applies to tzaddikim. Since they are on a level of perfection, their bitachon can result in miracles. But the rest of us, we have to bitachon anyhow, but don't expect miracles. But the Lashon says that's not the way we hold. And the Ramban says not the way we hold. He says a filu Rashi, that the pasuk is telling you, it says, B'atav Hashem v'yaseh tov, meaning the same idea. The bitachon is a midah unto itself. Trust in God is such a powerful midah that even if you have a veres in Shemayim that you have yet to do tshuva for, you haven't fixed them up, right? I was putting it up, I was waiting for Yom Kippur, and all of a sudden I find myself in a situation where I'm in danger and I require a miracle. What's going to happen? Can I go, Kodesh Baruch Hu save me? Nah, not me. I got this whole list of averas I've done tshuva for yet. It's not going to count now that I'm in trouble. The Ramban says, no, it's not like that. Habotech Hashem chesed yisavenu. If you botech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do the miracle for you. He will save you. Nothing stands in the way of bitachon. But he says, do tshuva after. Right? You can just imagine somebody who gets saved from a terrible disaster because he has bitachon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but doesn't do tshuva, and getting out of a situation gets hit by a truck. Part of the din for not doing tshuva. You have to do tshuva. Bitachon will not erase the averas a person has, but it can save a person. Why? What's going on? How does that happen? How do you have such control of the situation? How does bitachon change the Messias? And why was Yam Suf not a miracle then? Just because they had bitachon. It says they walked into the Yam Suf up into their nostrils. They got that far to the point they couldn't walk anymore physically without being semach on a miracle. At that point, the sea split. Kodesh Baruch Hu is the Moshe Ben, and Moshe is mispalo. He's davening. They're standing by the Yam Suf. There's a terribly, dangerous situation. The Mitzrim over there about to attack. The sea's over here. They're completely trapped. They come to Moshe Ben and say, "Wow, there weren't enough places in Mitzrayim to bury us. Took us out over here to be killed us dead." So Moshe gets frustrated, upset with the situation. So he davens. He prays. That's what Jews do in times of trouble. What do you mean? What are you davening for? Matitak alive. What are you davening for over here? Why? Why not? That's what Jews do in situations of trouble. So they explain, because what are you davening for? Davening, you're davening for something. For example, if a person owes you money, right? If a person owes you money, it's important to be polite, have good midas, but there's a certain right that you have in asking for the money back. You just, would you mind paying back the money that you owe me? Like giving back the money that belongs to me? Be polite, but it's coming to you. The person owes you the money. But if the person doesn't owe you money, and you want a gift of money, or you're borrowing money from somebody, so that changes the whole equation. Then you have to make a bakasha. You have to make a request. You have to ask in a way that literally makes it clear that you have the upper hand, I have the lower hand, and you're really doing me a favor. So when you're mispalel, when you're davening for something, when you have something coming to you, when you feel Kodesh Baruch Hu owes you something, which you never should feel that way in the first place, but if you do feel that way, do you feel the need to daven for it? Not usually. When do you daven for something? When you really believe it's not coming to you. And you're asking Kodesh Baruch Hu for it anyhow. I don't really deserve this thing, but would you mind giving it anyhow? Because the mispalel, not saying thank you, making sort of todah, giving Shabbat to Kodesh Baruch Hu, saying nishmas, that's praising the Kodesh Baruch Hu, thanks for what He's given to you. But you're making a bakasha, you're making a request, It's because you know you don't deserve the thing, but you're asking, b'derech rachamim, right, for mercy from Hashem, please help me out. So Moshe's b'mispala. He's done to Kosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because he knows that we don't deserve the sea to split. There's nothing we've done, as the Medrash says, the Malachim, the Midas Adin stood there by Yam said to Kosh Baruch Hu, you're not going to save them, are you? You're not planning to save them and drown the Egyptians. That's, as I say in Eretz Yisrael, it's a little fair. Right? It's not fair. Why? Halali of the Vodazara, v'halali of the Vodazara. The Mitzrayim were guilty of Vodazara, and the Jewish people were also guilty of idol worship. So why does one of his schus that everyone doesn't have? So Moshe was fully aware that the Jewish people really were fitting to drown by Yamsuf. He was completely aware of this. But still, we had to be saved. So what does he do? He does. Because he knows there's no schus. It's a bakasha. It's a request. In your mercy, somehow, for whatever reason, please split the sea. So Kosh Baruch Hu says, now if you walk up to the person, you say, would you mind, I'm short of money right now, can I borrow $50? It's a lot of money, it's not that much money. The person say, okay, whatever, when you plan to pay it back, I owe you the whole thing. You say, would you mind, I need to borrow some money. The person says, sure, no problem, how much do you need to borrow? $500,000. What? Even if you have the money to lend, right? $500,000, what? Say if a relative comes, someone's close to you, they want to borrow money, so you might have to back consider it. But a stranger, a neighbor, comes and says, I just need to borrow a little bit of money. How much? $500,000. You're a multi-millionaire, so what's the difference of it? Yeah, but still, it's a lot of money to lend a person, it's not coming to you. For me to lend you that money, it's like it's going up way beyond what's coming to you. So Kosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you davening for over here? That I should split the sea for you? For the Jewish people? You have a schus for me to split the sea? And that you're davening? What could you possibly say through your tefillah that would justify my splitting the sea? That's a big miracle. It's not like, would you mind splitting a puddle over here? Or would you mind providing a boat or something? Some means to be saved, but to split the Yam Suf, it's the most unnatural thing in the world to do, and you're asking me to do that on behalf of Christ, forget it. Stop doubting. It's not going to make a difference over here. That's not what's going to save you. So the Moshe says, it's not. So what are we supposed to do? Should we walk in the sea and drown, or face the Egyptians and be killed by their weapons? What are we supposed to do? So Hashem says there's one more thing you can do. Right? Take the miracle aspect out of it. You're asking for a miracle because when you're holding right now the Derech Teva, to split the sea would be extremely unnatural, like believing that Shemen Zayis burns and Chometz cannot, and therefore for the Chometz to burn, you're being soymach on a miracle. You're relying upon a miracle. So for the Jewish people, on the level they're holding right now, for the sea to split where they're holding right this second, they're holding the world of Teva. And you're asking for a phenomenally supernatural thing to happen. This tefillah is not going to work. It's not enough. It's not enough schuyot. But, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu, if they'll walk into the Yam Suf, up until their nostrils, they'll keep going until they can't go any further. They actually have that belief and trust in me that they'll be saved. They keep doing this, they'll split the sea on their own. On their own. The sea will split because of them. Because that's what seas are told to do when bitachon enters the picture. Why? We see by the Chashmonaim as well. At the Chashmonaim, are you allowed to go to war like that if you're going to die? Aren't you being semach a miracle? You're going to war against the mighty Greek army? Can you do a thing like that? Is that called being semach a nation against the Gemara over here? So the answer is it might have been, had they not had bitachon amuna. The bitachon amuna changed the whole equation. In fact, it changed the whole reality. It put them in a whole different darga. It put them in a darga where, technically speaking, and I'll give you a mashal. Right? Here's a mashal. It's not exactly an accurate mashal, but it makes the point over here. Right? You have a small army and a much larger army. Right? You have the Romans, you have the small group of Jews. Right? Let's say, for example, somehow, in some way, they want to go to the future and bring back cruise missile. Right? Instead, so this big, huge army faces a small little army, except for one problem. The small army has a cruise missile, has a bunch of cruise missiles, has a bunch of cannons and tanks and all that. All of a sudden, that's what terrorism. What is terrorism over here? Terrorism is basically it's a small group of people, like cells of terrorists. And there's not like a huge, massive country go to war against another country. How the Palestinians get to a point where they can literally force the world to make Israel surrender land? They're totally, they use terrorism. What is terrorism? Terrorism is a weapon. It's a weapon that the world can't stop. Because you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know the damage it's going to do. A bunch of maniacs get into an airplane and fly to the side of 2 buildings. Or they kidnap people, or they hijack a plane, and we can't stop all this stuff all the time. So it wears people down, becomes a weapon, it changes the equation. So likewise, that's a negative thing. But likewise, when bitachon enters the picture, it changes the equation. It's ki'ilu, the Chashmonayim were actually fighting on a whole different level of reality. And the tables were turned. So even though physically you have the many falling into the hands of the few, spiritually speaking, they became the many. Because once the Kodesh Baruch is on your side, you have the largest army in the world. It doesn't make a difference. And the Chaval is man, because people don't realize the miracle we're living with today. When you live next to Israel, you're a little bit closer to realizing the miracle. You live in a small little country. You ever look at the map? Just take a look at the map. And it's even smaller than it was before. Right? One tiny slice of land surrounded by huge, massive pieces of land filled with, not desert also, but millions of people who control all, tons of wealth in the world, have the chutzpah to do whatever they want to do, have the funds, the ability to carry out if they want to, have been trying for decades to wipe the Jewish people off the face of the earth, and not only have they been unsuccessful to do that until now, Baruch Hashem, not by any physical explanation, but life goes on like it's normal. Ki'ilu we're living someplace else. It goes even one step further. People like yourselves send their kids to yeshiva and seminary in the lion's den. Can you imagine that? The place is like in the middle, it's the most dangerous spot in the world, and people send their children into this, literally this lion's den of Arab enemies that do nothing but plan to make Israel extinct on a daily basis. Which means one of 2 possibilities. Either you have tremendous trust in the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the situation, or you don't love your kids. There's only 2 possibilities. We like to assume
But where you live is something else. Like I was shocked going over. I saw so many Arabs. It's huge. Oh gosh. The little telephone up there.
London is worse now, by the way. Yeah. You go to London, the whole airport is Arab after Arab. And they're the ones controlling the security of the airport. And back to the country is like incredible. It's hard to imagine how they even allow it to happen. But somehow the bitachon aspect changes the whole equation. Why? Because you're accessing the light of Hanukkah through bitachon. Question: what's going on? How you actually do that? How do you even get more of that, even more control of the situation? So to be able to appreciate that, just very briefly, you have to understand what Hanukkah is about in the first place. It's it's chaval because every year Hanukkah comes along and people do the mitzvah, like the menorah. We have the latkes, right, and almost die of heart disease because of all the oil we eat and consume during the 8 days, and then on top of that, it's not even like a Suda like we have in Purim. You can turn the Suda of Hanukkah into Suda's mitzvah by having the Torah and Zmiris and all that, so you can make it like that, but there's no mitzvah per se to do it. It's a mitzvah of Rishus to do it, but it's not the same thing. And on top of that, one of the most curious aspects of the entire Chag is the fact that when you light the menorah, in Chutz Life, I don't know exactly, people do it in the houses, outside the houses, what happens here, it depends where you are, but there's Israel, where we live amongst our own over there, we're not concerned about the world around us for the most part. People go out in the streets and they light the menorah, right, between 3 and 10 tfachim from the ground. Right? You see people bending over, you don't have to light the menorah because it's so low. Now when you light your Shabbos candles, you don't let them so close to the ground. You light them high up, on the table, or on a little shelf, whatever the case may be. So one reason is because the mitzvah of Shabbos candles is for shalom bayis. The light has to be accessible. You're lighting dafka for the light, because you have to shalom bayis in the house, and it's also Shem V'Zachar, the whole thing. But there's another element, and that is we do mitzvahs in the most mechubadik way possible. If you're going to do a mitzvah, you have to show how much you care about the mitzvah, you have to do it in an honorable way. That's the ideal situation. Taking the menorah and lighting it in the street so close to the ground is like almost a disgrace. It's almost on the ground itself. 3 tefachim from the ground is halachically kilos on the ground itself. So we go as close as we can without actually putting it on the ground. Right? We light the menorah so close to the ground. So the tactical reason why we do that is because we want to make it clear that we're not lighting for the light. By Shabbos candles, it is for the light, but by the Chanukiah, it's not for the light. Not to see better in the streets, right, or to read books by, but because Hashem did a nace for us at this time, and there's an inyan of Pesumim Nisa, to reveal, the claim and publicize the miracle. So by lighting the menorah in a way that people don't, use the line, that's like saying Hashem is alive and well and involved in Jewish history, and wants the miracle for Klal Yisrael and can do miracles again for us as well today. That's the whole miracle. But there's a deeper reason behind the entire thing. And for that, you can understand one more factor, one more important point, because it's really part of the whole equation over here. The Torah begins with Bereshis ba Elokim es hashamayim v'es ha'aretz. In the beginning, God made the heaven and the earth. But that's not the beginning of the story. That's actually the middle of the story. The Torah begins at the base. That's shot level, because to tell you whatever came after, that's an open book. Whatever came before is a closed book. The base is like closed to one side, but open towards the rest of the Torah. That's what the Medrash says. But there's a deeper reason. The deeper reason is because this pshat. This is pshat. And Kabbalah is represented by the Aleph, and that comes before. So actually, Kabbalah goes even. My separation is like walking into the movie in the middle. We know more than that. We understand more. The Arizal explains more than that. And without going into the entire process, just the basic idea. The Kodesh Baruch Hu, to make my separation, there's a thing called Or Ein Sof. Or Ein Sof is the light of Hashem. It's in everything. If the light of Hashem is not in something, the thing ceases to exist. Not even like death. By death, the Kodesh Baruch Hu pulls the soul away, but the body remains. Because the light of Hashem is still in the body. When the light gets pulled back more and more, the body begins to decay, eventually disappears completely for the most part, except for little parts here and there, but disappears. Because as long as the light's there, the thing could exist. The moment the Kodesh Baruch Hu pulls his light away from something, the thing will cease to exist immediately. There's no residual effect of the having been there at some point in time. So at the beginning, Kabbalah explains everything was Or Ein Sof, just pure light of God, nothing else. Nothing could exist physically on that level, because the light was so pure and so holy, nothing physical could exist. There's no such thing as Hester punning at this stage. Because Baruch Hu decides he wants to make Ma'aser Bereishis. For whatever reason, he decides he wants to make Ma'aser Bereishis. So there's a concept called Tzimtzum. You heard Tzimtzum before? It means to constrict. Because Baruch Hu constricts his light. Where? In the middle of his light called Or Ein Sof. And he makes what's called a halal. He makes a hollow. A dead body is also called a halal, because the soul's missing from it. Halal could be like a cave, isn't that? Like a void area. But he makes this like black area, like a negative space that's round inside. And that's where creation is going to take place, inside this halal. And then he goes back and he puts the light back into the halal, because now he can control it. Before it was all Or Ein Sof. Everything was equal everywhere. The light was powerful, too powerful for creation to exist everywhere at one point in time. Now there's a halal, right? So now it's possible for creation to exist. The light comes back in, and it comes back in and starts to create everything. Creates one sphere, another sphere, whatever the process is. That's for Kabbalah to discuss and understand. But the point is, he's creating, because Baruch Hu's working his way towards making a world in which man can exist and have free will, and make moral choices, and go to the world to come. That's the whole process. In a nutshell. The light's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down. And at some point in time, Kodesh Baruch Hu says stop. Because if the light keeps going to the very bottom, what's going to happen? Everything the light touches becomes perfect. If the light goes to the very bottom of this negative space, there'll be no negative space anymore, and we're back to square one. So Kodesh Baruch Hu said, stop. He stopped the light at a certain point in the creation process. Eventually he makes man and says to man, your job is to finish off the rest of creation. What does that mean? Right? And where do you stop the light? And for what reason at that point? So Kabbalah explains that there are actually 5 levels of reality that coexist. Right? Just like, for example, in an apartment building, you have the top floor, let's say the 5th floor, and there's a 4th floor, and there's a 3rd floor, and a 2nd floor, and a ground floor. It's all part of one building. So there are 5 levels. And each of those levels have 10 levels, which we tend to call the 10 sfirot, and substantive 10 sfirot. And the light comes in, makes one level, and then a second level, and then a third level, and all 10 levels are created, and now you have one floor. One floor is now built. It's like building the apartment building upside down. We used to start with the ground floor and go up. Here, Kosh Baruch starting with the upper floor and going down. When you're God, you can do things like that. Then he goes to the next level, and another 10 spheres, and keeps going down. And everywhere he goes down, there's perfection, perfection, perfection. But Kosh Baruch Hu says stop. Where does he say stop? So if you look at Parshas Miketz, in Parshas Miketz, when Yaakov Avinu decides to send Yosef, to send the brothers back up to Mitzrayim with Binyamin, he says that, this hurts. I'm bothered by all of this. But it should be that the God who said, Kel Shekai, he invoked the name of Kel Shekai, as Rashi explains, what's Kel Shekai? The word, the name Shekai comes from the word die. Die means enough. It means enough, right, to stop. So the God who said to stop the process of creation should stop all of our suffering and all this Yisurim and sorrows we've had until now. That's what Yaakov says. So it turns out that that's exactly what this is referring to. But if Baruch Hu said die, he meant die. The light should stop. The gematria of die is 14. It's 14. So the light actually stopped 14 levels to the bottom of creation. So how many levels does it actually go down? Depends. How many levels can it go down? 5 worlds, each have 10 layers. Altogether is 50 levels. The light stops 14 levels from the bottom. How many levels does the light actually go down? How many candles do you light in the course of 8 days of Hanukkah? Why? Because what you're doing, and the reason why the menorah is so close to the ground, is you're drawing the light of 36 from the top of creation down to the very bottom, finishing off the job because Baruch Hu began that Adam Rishon was supposed to fix up. When Kodesh Baruch Hu, Adam Rishon makes the mistake of eating from the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra, what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu say to him? One word, Ayeka, which is translated as where are you? Does the word Ayeka even exist? If you look at the dictionary, will you find Ayeka anywhere? No. You'll find Eicha, but not Ayeka. So what is Ayeka? Ayeka is a gematria. What's the gematria of Ayeka? Is 36. Why? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu was saying to Adam Arisha, the whole point of your being in creation was to draw the light of 36 down to the bottom. What have you done? You reversed the whole procedure. You did just the opposite again. You brought darkness. So that's why, later on in the future, a holiday comes along where the Chashmonayim do the exact opposite. By being Moshe Nefesh, by Habitach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they draw the light down into the world and a miracle happens as a result of that. In which century from creation does the light of Chanukah actually occur? In the 36th century from Maaseh Bereshis. Because all about the 36. All about the 36. So you look in the Parsha, right, the Parsha where in Parshas Vayeshev, Yaakov Avinu decides to send Yosef down to check on the shalom of his brothers, right? Which almost doesn't make sense whatsoever. Just like doesn't, how does that work? He knows that the brothers hate him. He knows that his life will be endangered by going down there. But he tells him to go down and check on the shalom of his brothers anyhow. By doing that, he goes down. They sell him into slavery. He gets sold down to Mitzrayim. But in the process of being sold, he becomes head of Potiphar's house for a while. But that results in being accused by his wife, Potiphar's wife. He goes down to jail, and then from jail, he becomes viceroy of Egypt, and his dreams are fulfilled. Every step along the way, miracles are happening for Yosef. Even after the brothers sold him, they put him into a pit, poisonous things that could easily bite him and kill him, they don't touch him. Arabs usually selling neft, but this time they sell only spices. Sweet smelling spices, take him down to Egypt. He goes down to Egypt, he's Bape Potiphar, overnight he becomes the master of his house. Even Potiphar is forced to say, this guy is talented. This guy is blessed. Everything he touches turns to gold. So Rashi says in last week's Parsha. Everything that Yosef touches turns to gold because he's always successful. Miracles are always happen. Even when he goes to jail because of the accusations, he becomes promoted to become head of the jail. To the point that the head of the jail himself no longer checks on Yosef. The Baal bias over here at this point in time. And then he finally gets out and he becomes, Paro brings him forth and he says, is there anybody through whom God speaks, as clearly as does this person called Joseph? And gives him a new name. Tzaddik Panet, the one who reveals hidden things. Joseph dies at the age of 110. The Rizal says by Yeshua ben Nun, the reason why the same age is because the gematria of 110 is Nes. And because Baruch Hu wants us to know that everything Joseph did, everything that happened to Joseph, his entire life was one miracle after another miracle, after another miracle, after another miracle. And then Rashi also explains in Parshas Vayetze that he is the one who will save us from Esav at the end of history. He's the opposer of Esav at the end of history. Somehow, miraculously, Esav at the end of history is huge, monstrous, beyond imagination. They control the entire world. And yet, what happens, Rashi points out, is the Pasuk from Avadia, that Yaakov is a fire, Yosef is a flame, and Esav is like straw. It's kash, it's straw. It's lots of straw, right? But one spark from a small little flame. It's an amazing thing. From all this hay, a whole room, whole building filled with all this hay. It's flammable, but fills the whole room. And one little spark, like the fire just happened in Jerusalem, one little match can ignite the entire thing and burn it up. So fire will go out from Yaakov, which is Yosef, and burn up all the kash that's Esav at the end. But it seems, again, it's the many being overcome, being vanquished by the few. So if you notice the word shalom, right? The word shalom has a shin and a mem, and inside is a lamed vav. It's 36. What's 36? The 36 of Hanukkah. Even the dream, Cholom itself, has the lamed vav in the center of it. When Yaakov sends Yosef down to check on the shalom of his brothers, he's not simply saying, go see how they're doing. Go see how successful they are at herding their sheep. He's telling them to go down to rectify them, to teach them how to live in the level of Hanukkah, to teach them how to access the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light creation, as you're able to do on a daily basis. Teach them how to do it as well. In the end, it's exactly what he does. But it happens all through a whole process of going down to Mitzrayim. It wasn't immediate. It wasn't as he went down there to do it right away. Rather, he sold person to slavery, goes through the entire process. But the whole process in the end was to bring the brothers, the Shvatim, up to a level where they're living on the level of Hanukkah in this world right now. Was he successful? No. And that's why Shibud Mitzrayim came and Moshe ben had to be born. How many years after the Shibud was Moshe born? 36 years. Because why? Rashi points out. When he was born, he shone a special light. Not a physical light. Kabbalah explained. The light, Or HaGanuz, the hidden light of creation, the light of Hanukkah was with him all the time. So, this is just touching the surface of the idea. What does it mean practically in everyday life? How does this actually, the truth is, without even realizing it, it's already occurring for you on a daily basis on some level. The thing is, though, we don't always recognize it. And not recognizing it, we don't always know how to use it. One of the advantages of living in Eretz Yisrael is that you're forced to access that light. Light is more miraculous in Eretz Yisrael. The actual place, that's why the miracle, all the other Galileuos, all the other redemption took place in Chutz Lights. The one by Chanukah is specifically in Eretz Yisrael. So it's a whole different seas. It forces a person to live a level of bitachon amunah. It draws it out of you. Whether you want to have it or not have it, you just have to live there. You have to have bitachon. For one reason or for another reason, whether it's parnasa, whether it's all the Arabs surrounding you, but it's eretz bitachon. That's what the land is. It forces the issue. And because it forces the issue, people have to live with that. It goes, as much as possible. Miracles happen all the time. Things that don't happen here necessarily, in the same level, in the same obvious way. I think it was what's his name, Winkler. He writes these books on Hashgacha Prati's books. You know, and today everyone does it as well. But at one point in time, he was one writing, like the doctor like that. But he would write books, and actually I think he lives in Chutz La'aretz. But he wrote his introduction. I remember looking at one of his books once. He wrote his introduction. He says, "You'll notice that most of these stories I'm about to tell you are all taking place in Eretz Yisrael." And he says, "There's a reason for that, because that's where stories take place." He says, "Lots of Hashgacha Pratis in Chutz La'aretz too, and lots of Nisim Neflas for sure." He says, "But Eretz Yisrael, it's obvious. It's so clear, right? You can't mistake it. The hand of the Kadosh Baruch Hu available on a daily basis. If you rise to the occasion of the bitachon, automatically that's what draws the light. In fact, if we go back to the very beginning of my Bereshis, Rashi actually provides the clue. The very beginning. It says, Kodesh Baruch Hu Yom Elokim Yehi Or. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, let there be light, and He made the light. And Rashi says, immediately after, in the fourth pasuk, Kodesh Baruch Hu hid that light. Which light was it? Well, it wasn't the light of the sun and the stars. That wasn't until the fourth day creation. It's not incandescent light we have right now, or fluorescent light. That came along much later in history. So what light did the Kodesh Baruch Hu hide? It's called the Oregon News. The light that Kodesh Baruch Hu made creation. Why did He hide it? What was His reason for hiding it? He says because the Rishonim would abuse it. The Rishonim of history would abuse that light. They can use this light and abuse it however they want. They can use the light of the sun, the moon, the stars. They break it into bangs using moonlight. It's accessible to everybody. But the Oregon News, nah. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, no way. He shut that light down. That's the light of Chanukah. As the Bnei Sechar says, the Or HaGanuz is the Ner Shel Chanukah, right there. Inside those candles. We light them. So Kodesh Baruch Hu hid the light. And Rashi points out, He hid the light for tzaddikim lasig lavo. It sounds like it's a reward for tzaddikim for the future time. So Leshem explains, he says, no, it doesn't mean that. It means that the hiding of the light is now that unless you have the proper midas, unless you have the proper attitude towards life, this light will repel you. It will avoid you. You can't draw it down. Two people, one righteous, one evil, can look at the exact same world. And the righteous person, the light will come to, they'll see the hand of the Kodesh Baruch Hu, they'll be real with them, they'll be the Emunah, and miracles will happen for them. But the Rasha, the evil person, can't access the light. Kodesh Baruch Hu made it that he can't access the light. The pass key, the key to get in, to access his light, specific midah. You have this midah, the light will come to you. So Rashi's telling you, in this world, Rashi explains, every single day of light, the light is accessible, but you have to have the proper pass keys. How do you do that? It's bitachon emunah. Bitachon emunah is not about closing your eyes and saying, just gotta trust. Because I don't know how it's going to happen. I'm going to survive this thing, but God runs the world. He can do whatever He wants. Just I'll wait for the result to come. But you believe in Teva still. You're being semach and nes. That's not bitachon. That's called being semach and nes. So what's bitachon then? Bitachon is when somebody says, "Who am I talking about? Kodesh Baruch Hu runs the world. Teva is an illusion. It's not. I have to function within it. I have to work with it. The great Gadol, the Tanoim, had to talk to Roman emperors. They had to still, live in that world. The miracles happened for them, but they still function. Their feet still walk the ground. But the bitachon meant that when I've gone as far as I possibly can to rectify the situation, to rectify the world, as much as reasonable for me to actually make that effort. From that point onward, the Kodesh Baruch Hu not can take care of the rest, will take care of the rest. That midah of bitachon is what opens up Shemayim and allows the Oregon News of Chanukah that we see in Chanukah time that we celebrated come into the world, surround that person, and Chesed Savenahu. Chesed will surround that person. In the midst, the nace will happen. It's something. You talk about intellectually, academically all the time, but until you actually experience it. And so I just shared two very short, small little examples, but I shared last night too as well. So forgive me for repeating myself, but it's just like recent things that personally, for me, I connect. It's like, for me, it's a connection. It's real to me. But this is like it's small, but it happens all the time in everybody's life on an ongoing basis. You have to pay attention, take note of these things, because this is the Oregon News coming into your life. Because there's no such thing as coincidence. Nothing is random. Everything is Hashgacha Pratis. But we have a klal. We should say in Hallel, Me'ez Hashem, Haisa Zos, He was be'ein name. Right? Me'ez Hashem, Haisa. This is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. direct, everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's the Melech talking about? Everything's from Hashem. No, but this is specifically overt hashgacha practice. This is direct from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When? Hinu is beineinu. It's wondrous in our eyes. When something happens in my life, there's a corollary to this principle. On one is saying, oh, it's very remarkable what happens, for example, the situation should never have occurred, but it occurred. It's wondrous. We all step back and say, wow, it's amazing. Like the forest fire, it's a negative thing, but it's amazing as after a positive thing, a victory in the 6-Day War, it's amazing. We're all saying, right, it's niflas beineinu. It's wondrous in our eyes. Meis Hashem is us. But there's a corollary. The corollary is more important. Everything is from Kodesh Baruch Hu. So what's the Melech saying? He's saying, if you can't see Kodesh Baruch Hu, the nace of life at everyday level, it's because it's not niflas beinecha. Right? If you want to be able to see how things are from Kodesh Baruch Hu, everything has to become wondrous in your eyes. That's a sensitivity to develop. You can't take anything for granted. Everything is a blessing, and everything is a miracle. You live in that level of reality, you can see the hand of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have more bitachon, the light comes to you, and even bigger miracles take place. So just one small, tiny little example, because this is what it is. So I just mentioned last night that before I came to Chutz La'aretz, I make a point of going to the Kota once a week. Ever since they talked about dividing Yerushalayim years ago, I thought to myself, it's a warning for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's a warning shot. We don't appreciate what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave back. It was in 1967. The Kota is right there. To not go to this once a week doesn't make sense. I made a point once a week to go to the Kota. And I try as much as possible. Even when I plan these trips to Chutz La'aretz, you should try to stay away only one Shabbos. So I don't miss a week go to the Kota. I'll go Motzi Shabbos and this stuff didn't work out that way. It's a 2-week trip. But is that important? So I was actually on my way to the Kota. So that's a possibility. And then I found out there's another bus, the 60 bus, that also goes to Fri Apr. So now I have a choice of three different buses. So I lined up first at the one bus stop, thinking that's the one I'll probably take. But the 60 bus showed up, the next bus stop. So I ran over to the 60 bus stop to take that bus instead. I reached into my pocket looking for the transfer, and lo and behold, it wasn't there. In the last 35 seconds, somehow I had lost the transfer. I'm checking each pocket over and over and over again. This pocket, that pocket, inside, pockets I knew I for sure didn't put into. But you're checking frantically. More people go in the bus, more people go in the bus. And there was a principle involved here. I didn't want to pay a second time. Stingy, whatever. Didn't want to pay, I had a transfer to use to go to the Kota. I'm checking my pockets. And more people are going on. It's like now, either you're going to pay for the bus or wait for another bus in the end. As I'm thinking this thing, the 20 bus shows up ahead. Right? So I thought, I just bought myself some more time. So I ran to the 20 bus stop, and I'm still checking my pockets. Okay, I might find a transfer. And I still can't find it. The 60 bus pulls out, and the 20 bus is almost finished loading people up. And then myself, I just have to pay, I go, I'll pay for the 620, whatever, and I'll go. But it's a chaval, I lost the transfer. How can I lose the transfer so quickly like that? It was just in my pocket. And I must have reached into my pocket, taken my hand up, I must have come out, and I don't remember doing that. What happened? Where did it go? Because you know how you look for it, and you go home later on, and you reach into your pocket, the first thing you pull out, there's some strange, bizarre, there's some angel in Shemayim that likes to play games like this. Right? Where he takes it away from when you need it, gives it back to you later on, you don't use it. He has fun doing things like this, it seems like sometimes, right? So I thought to myself, okay, what am I going to do? But as the 20 buses almost finished loading, the one bus showed up. So I thought, okay, well, anyhow, I'm paying for the bus at this point in time. Let me run back into the one bus. I've lost some time already. I'll go right to the old city, to the back, and I'll go to the hotel. And I run all the way back to one bus, and just before I go onto the bus, I look down the ground, and there's my transfer. Pick it up, right, and go to the bus. But the amazing thing was, if I got the 60 bus, I wouldn't have found it. If I got the 20 bus, I wouldn't have found it. The one bus hadn't shown up, I would have sure got on the 20 bus as opposed to going to the next one. But the timing of each one, exactly, that I went from one to the other, and then back to the first one, and that's what the transfer was. It was like, I got in the bus, I felt so good. Small thing, like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? And I actually thought to myself, what is the big deal? You're so stingy, you can't pay $620 for a bus, and you've got the Kota. What's the big deal over here? What do you care about? So I thought to myself, it's because of the hashgacha pratis. That's the big deal. It's the divine providence. Like, if you lose the transfer, the Gemara says you reach into your pocket looking for a nickel, you pull a dime, that's called Yisurim. That's also called Hashgacha Pratis. It's also Yisurim. You know, if you want money in your pocket, the odds of getting it right are much less, but it's called Yisurim. But the Gemara is making a point over here. Everything, by definition, is a function of divine providence. So if that's the case, and things like go out of their way, they don't work out the way they should work out, it's like negative divine providence. Like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you making me pay $6.20? Right? I didn't pay before. Or whatever the case may be. Or missing the bus. The next one has a better story than that one, but I won't take the time to give it right now. Even bigger miracle. And this is going on every single day in a person's life. And this is the way that Hakadosh Baruch Hu communicates to us on an ongoing basis. He's always talking to us, always in communication, always trying to help us out, always trying to connect with us and bring us close to Him. But we're just not there. We're like radios that are untuned. The signal's there. They're broadcasting 24/7. Hakadosh Baruch Hu is broadcasting all the time. Nothing gives Him greater pleasure than talking to us. We communicate to our bitachon and by the bitachon and reaching out to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, we communicate to Him. By making fantastic hashgacha pratis happen, He answers us back. And we do this. We rise to a whole different level of existence. You'll still have to make supper for the time being. You'll still have to do laundry and do whatever you have to do on a daily basis, or go to work, whatever the case may be. But you'll see. There'll be small changes at first, and then later on major changes. And you'll feel yourself living a whole different plane of existence. And miracles will happen for you in a way you never thought possible.